Hey everyone! Before we get this episode started, I'm going to ask you to please follow us on Instagram at Likeable Pod. Follow me on Instagram at David Stickle Comedy, which is also my website, davidsticklecomedy.com, and my YouTube at David Stickle Comedy. Please follow, support there. Subscribe to the newsletter, which can be found on the Instagrams or on the website. That would be greatly appreciated. Please, subscribing on YouTube makes a huge difference if you care about that. If you don't care about making a difference, why even listening to this? Seriously, you should just hit fast forward 30 seconds and you'll be somewhere in the intro, I assume. I don't know. I don't time these things. Who does? Who could? Who would? But yeah, please make sure you do that. Thank you, and enjoy this week's episode.
You got jokes and you're insightful, but are you likable? You got jokes, you're the host and are you likable?
Hello and welcome to Likeable, the show where we discuss stand-up comedy from an entry-level perspective. I'm your host, David Stickle, and today I'm joined by Aislinn Janek.
Aislinn Janek, yes, that's me.
Oh, geez, I pronounced that horribly.
No, you got it. I think the first name was good. So that's the one that usually trips everyone up. And then by the time you get to the second name, you should already know something's up. So soft J, soft J.
Nice. So where are you zooming in from?
I am in London currently. Yes.
All right. What are you doing out there? You care to share?
Yeah. I'm here for 2 weeks to do stand-up comedy. The original, I guess, point of the trip was I was in Japan for 2 months, which sounds like a roundabout way. But I am also a visual artist, so I was in Japan because I had 2 solo exhibitions, one in Tokyo and then one in Kobe. So I was there. I also did some stand-up while I was there, but I figured while I was out of the house, I could just come to London and then I'll be in Dublin for the next 2 weeks, and just figured that, it's more English speaking here. So I figured it would be easier to do stand-up. And so far that's true. Yeah. There's just a lot more. In Japan, the English speaking scene is growing, and I was in Japan in 2025, and even just from 1 year, I can see changes. And so in Japan, they just had the second annual Okinawa Comedy Festival, which was like huge for them. So it's a multi-day, multilingual event as well. And so yeah, people are really interested in it. And specifically, when I did an open mic in Osaka, and like just an open mic, but the news showed up.
The news?
The news was recording, and so it was funny because my friends wanted to come see me perform, and I'm like, well, you can come here, like it's just an open mic, but you guys can come check it out. And they were so afraid. They're like, thinking that the comedians are just going to make fun of them, and they're like, we don't want to be involved in the show. And I'm like, listen, it's not going to be like that. Just come, chill. And we arrive, and very chill news crew is interviewing them, and they're like all sweating and they're like, we're so nervous for you. So that was kind of exciting. And then I went back and did another show with the same people who run the mic. It's called Kansai Comedy. Shout out to Dylan Lamb. And he runs it there. And the news was there as well. Again, just very interested in what we were doing.
So is it like they were so tuned in because there was an American doing comedy?
Yes, they came to see me. No. No, the news, I don't know how exactly they caught wind of it, but Kansai Comedy is kind of a pop-up comedy company brand.
Is it like Don't Tell?
Sorry?
Is it like Don't Tell?
Potentially, yeah. It's not as I would say robust, but it is an Australian comedian, Dylan Lamb, and a few others who run open mics and comedy shows in the Kansai area, which is West Japan. So that's Kyoto, Osaka, probably Kobe as well, but they were in Kyoto and Osaka during the dates that I was there.
That's so cool. So is that like, so your friends are from Japan? That
They're Japanese and they're English speaking, but they've never been to a comedy show, and so that was their first time, and their first experience is like this whole news crew, lights everywhere. I'm like, it's not like this. It's not usually like this.
is their perception of it like Matt Rife and all that kind of stuff, or is there like a Japanese influence like comedian that does like crowd work and stuff?
Sure. So there is definitely a lot of Japanese comics. In fact, the Tokyo Comedy Bar just produced a US tour with I don't remember everyone's name, but are you familiar with Yuri Collins and Daisuke Muramoto? There was a few others.
I think
And
that's on Tony, like in
yeah, yeah, so they're Japanese comedians. They do stand up in Japanese as well, but they also have English acts. And so they were touring the US. And
wow,
that happened before I left. So that was like March, April. hmm
that's pretty sick.
Yeah. So it's like I said, it's growing, and the more traditional Japanese stand-up, the way that I understand it is usually two people on stage, and then it's like the goofball and the straight man. So
Okay.
that's more of like what they're used to, and so kind of the standing speaking kind of directly to the crowd in a way is a little bit newer, but yeah, I would say people are interested in it. Like the news really wanted to know what was up, and my friends were very excited, even though I knew that they weren't gonna catch all of my jokes, especially my stand-up is very ironic. And so like my jokes kind of fly under the radar if you're not like tapped into how it's ironic.
What what do you think would like cause this like growing interest over there? Because if it's been, I mean, they're a fairly old country, and this is
Yeah.
like you said in the past year you've seen it grow so much.
Mhm.
Um, what do you think like might have sparked that a little bit more?
I don't know exactly. I think that throughout time, like historically, like Japan has been interested in American culture that even though it is very like island nation mentality, and for so long the country like wasn't open to trade. It wasn't open to really international commerce. And so like what that includes is also culture. Like when you're not trading goods, you're not trading culture as well. So for a long time, the only European influence or Western influence on Japan was from the Netherlands. They, for some reason, I don't really know what. I'm not like a don't know
Yeah.
so much history. This is just kind of like this is just what I've gathered.
Yeah. You're,
Is
what do you mean
like
you're not
they're
an expert?
yeah, I was there for 2 months and now I know everything. And they would trade with the Dutch. And so there still is like one village, this like one colony that's very Dutch, where that's the dominant language that's spoken. But for a long time that was it. But just from watching older Japanese cinema, like even in the 50s, 60s, it's like the cool people look and dress American.
That's
And
so interesting.
yeah, and even like in the 80s and 90s, I think it's called Americage and that might not be the exact term, but it's like short for American casual. And so dressing in like denim and t-shirts is like seen as very cool and very Western, and you're on the cutting edge.
That's kind of funny because like just from like being down in the city so much, like it does seem like there's a Japanese influence on like what's cool now, you know?
Yeah, it definitely is, and so like every time I'm in Japan and someone asks where I live and I say I live in New York, they applaud. So it's not just that American is very cool. It's like, oh my gosh, you're a New Yorker, you live in New York, that's incredible, and but very much so like they've been international tastemakers for decades on our end, like through design and through, most things that I'm in, also art. Yeah.
So, I mean, you're a painter, right?
Mhm.
And you're from Youngstown, Ohio.
Okay.
And you move to New York City, you start stand up, you're doing, stand up in Japan, now you're in London and you're about to go to, what do you say, Ireland after
Yeah,
this?
Dublin.
Yep. So, I mean, that's like, could you like have imagined, would you say like 2020, 2019? You made this the start of doing
Yeah.
stand up? I mean, could you imagine you'd be doing this?
Yeah, so I moved to New York in 2019 and was painting. I started doing stand-up in 2024, so about 2 years ago. But imagining doing this, I don't know. It's hard to say because I truly like never think about a 5-year plan. When I was in high school, I couldn't imagine my life beyond high school. I truly didn't. And that's really weird to think about. So especially when like you're at that age, like 17, 18, and people are asking like, oh, are you gonna go to college? What are you gonna do after high school? And like studying, I don't know. I just kind of always think of it as a joke. Like truly, like I felt that like I started university as a fine arts major, and I'm like, no one's going to let me do this. This is a joke. Like, this is a horrible investment of time and money. And like, when it comes down to it, people are going to be like, hey, like, you don't need to do that. And I definitely didn't. But yeah, so no, I don't necessarily imagine details, but I find it hard for me to imagine staying in the same place. So a lot of people, especially on this trip, are asking me like, "Oh, could you live in London? Could you live in Kobe? Could you live in Tokyo?" And it's like, yeah, I could live anywhere, but I'm not gonna like make a plan to.
Okay, so you're just kind of going with the flow right now.
Yeah, yeah, and that's kind of how I direct myself. It's going with the flow, but also I planned this trip. So I was in Japan, like I mentioned, in 2025 for the first time, and that's when I got in touch with these two galleries. They wanted to do the shows kind of back to back, and so I thought, well, if I'm going to sublease my apartment for 2 months, I might as well sublease it for four. And so this month, I'm really focusing on stand up in London, Dublin, and then in August, I'm going to France for an artist residency.
That's sick.
Yeah, so it's like I'm going with the flow, but also like I applied for the residency, I booked the tickets, so I don't know, it's like a mix.
Yeah, is the so what's like the lun I mean, I'm just so curious. I mean,
Yeah, please.
like usually my guests are
Foreign.
either from the Hudson Valley. I mean, I do get New York City guests a lot, but I mean, as you'll find, well, especially if you're doing stand up in the city as well, a lot of those people don't really get out of the city that often. So, I mean, they might like have a lot of different culture and diversity around them, but they don't really get out to see different crowds, of people. Like, they might have one person from Japan in the audience, but a crowd that is completely Japanese or completely, from the UK, like that's very interesting to me.
Mhm.
So so what's it like doing it in like London? I mean, that's a whole different beast, I imagine.
Yeah, definitely. So I have only done a few shows since I've been here, but it's been interesting. I think there's no place quite like New York, especially for stand up, and it's just so robust in the way that in New York, like in New York City specifically, you can start open mics at noon on any given day and do a mic every hour on the hour until 4 a.m. So
Mm-hmm.
if you really want to do stand up, there's no excuse. Here, I found, and again, I might not be as, I'm not, there's no way I'm tapped into the scene, but it seems like there are open mics and shows, and there's not too much of a difference between the two. And they happen at 7 and they happen at 9. That's what I've been seeing.
Cool.
Yeah, so I think that it's a little bit more disjointed in terms of like where to get information. But I mean, the same as any place, I went to an open mic last night and I heard about that from word of mouth. And then I met a handful of comics who then gave me a handful of more shows to reach out to. So that's just how it goes, I think, anywhere.
Are they excited that you're American?
I don't think they care that much. No one's applauding me for being from New York here.
They're over
Yeah,
it.
yeah, they're over it. But they're welcoming. They're nice. They're not like upset that I'm American. And then it's funny because like they talk about us. Like a lot of people's material is like, football versus soccer and like,
Oh,
yeah, and people like have jokes about American culture. And so it's interesting that people still like, they might shit on us, for a lot of reasons, but we're the foundation of the zeitgeist. Yeah.
are they do you find that some of their viewpoints are accurate or you're like, all right, you probably could benefit from like staying a week in New York or something.
No, they got us. They
Yeah.
got it. Yeah, yeah, for the most part. And a lot of people do travel. So I know, I don't really know what the statistics are here, but everyone who mentioned the US mentioned traveling to the US. So it was, a first hand encounter. But I know that in the US, only 1 in 4 people have their passports.
Yeah.
So that's only 1 in 4 people who think about leaving the country, and they might just have it to have an additional ID. They might not even be thinking about traveling with it. So
That's yeah.
yeah, I mean, there's a lot more people in the US, like it's just a larger country, but that percentage is quite small, I would say. Whereas here, it's easier to travel with because just by distance. So like from the UK to anywhere in Europe is like a lot quicker of a flight than somewhere in the US to somewhere that's another country.
For sure, because it's almost like if I wanted to go from, I'm in upstate New York, like if I wanted to go to like Ohio, I mean, that's probably, like probably traveling to Germany. If
Yeah,
I'm,
exactly. Yeah, and that's the thing, you can do a lot in a car here. There's like even though England is on an island, I guess, they have an under the water tunnel so you can drive to France.
like,
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
you driven over there?
Oh no, I haven't driven. I don't really like to drive. They are on the other side of the road here, which is the same in Japan, which I didn't realize. So
Oh,
I'll be in 3 countries where they drive on the other side of the road before I go to France, and they got it right.
that's pretty gnarly.
Yeah, yeah. It's definitely confusing when you cross the street, and I appreciate in London they have it written on the crosswalks which way to look, and that is very helpful because just instinctively you're looking the wrong way.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, when we're kids, they're told look both ways.
Right, but the you look both ways, but you're looking the wrong way at the traffic. You're
Right,
like,
right.
oh, no one's coming this way. Yeah, I can cross halfway. Yeah. I mean, just the other day, I had come across this like the situation where it wasn't a red light, green light. It was just it looked like 2 lampposts with 2 orange orbs that were like blinking, and I like start to like step into the crosswalk, and I'm like trying to time myself with the light, and I'm like I don't know what's going on, and then finally I'm like halfway across the street and I look at the car and I'm like, do I just go? And they're like, come on. I think it was just like a pedestrian had the right of way, but I didn't know. The lights were confusing me, and then it was like, why aren't they like blinking together? They were kind of like, you might say, offbeat. um so yeah, that was my international confusion for the day, but just kind of, yeah, not reading the room of like,
Meanwhile, they're like
yeah,
cursing you out in their
yeah.
car.
They're like, what is she doing? And like traffic was fully stopped. I'm like, help.
So you're
Someone else.
causing a scene. That's
Yeah,
what you're doing.
yeah.
It's cool. What would you say your style of humor is? You said there's like some like satire, maybe
Mhm, mhm.
some like irony in there.
Yeah, I'm definitely deadpan, quick, witty, if I do say so myself. And yeah, kind of one-liners. I am, I guess, like in a way, like trying to tell a story, but through one-liners. And yeah, the other day I went to what I thought was an open mic. I thought it was like a feedback mic. And it was really a writing session. And so I walked in late. Everyone had their notebooks out, and I was like, oh my God. And one of the assignment or like exercises that we did was like turn to your partner, say a joke, and then have them cut all the unnecessary words. And it's like, there's kind of, a lot of times people will suggest like, hey, maybe like add a filler word because that's so quick that like nobody had time to catch it. So I'm a minimalist painter and I'm a minimalist on stage as well.
Minimalist in general.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's cool. Well, have you had that experience in New York at all? Like just like a writing group that, just like show up and like write together? I've yet to find something like that here.
I'm constantly trying to do that. Like, probably the first year of comedy, I was aggressively asking anyone who I thought was funny. I was like, oh, like, let's get a coffee. What's your writing process? Do you ever write with other people? And so far, it hasn't really panned out into anything as formal as I would like. I mean, I guess I have friends. Um, I guess that's how you make friends. But uh, that's how I started, was with a class. So that's how I kind of formally got into stand up. So I was kind of looking to find that structure outside of like paying for a class. And so that's something I'm constantly trying to do. I Now I try to I guess write by myself, which is but that was really refreshing. Like, I didn't know that what I was walking into, and I wish that I had had a notebook, but I was just kind of like Elle Woods, like taking notes on like a tiny receipt, and that was embarrassing. But the the structure, I enjoy structure. Like, I mentioned that writing gym, it's called Angel Comedy Gym. If you're in London, their Angel Comedy is a great company as well. They run shows 7 nights a week. So I did one of their shows last Tuesday, and it was really fun. It was awesome. And so shout out to them for putting me up. But the writing gym, yeah, I was excited for it. I like structure like that, but I mentioned it to other people at the open mic last night, and they were like, "Oh no, like it's horrible. Like we don't do that." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, well,
I
to
think
each
it's
their
so
own."
interesting because like I believe I view comedy more as like a craft than an art form.
That's interesting. I just wrote a Substack about that
Oh
before.
yeah,
Mhm.
interesting. You should plug your Substack if you
Oh
care.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. I don't know how to plug it. I guess it's just me on Substack.
yeah.
The link is we can maybe put the link in the description. I guess I kind of informally am calling it, what am I calling it? Unable to verify.
Okay, very cool.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, well, yeah, send me the link. I'll put it in
I
the
will. Yeah, yeah. Hmm.
But yeah, I do find it to be more of a craft than a art form because one, it's like it's hard to compare like well, you're a painter, right? So it's like, somebody paints something like that. I guess both mediums can kind of like emote something out of somebody. But I mean, I just view painting more as like an art because it's finished, it's there, and like a joke is crafted and it's constantly being crafted until it's published. And I guess maybe you can say like at the end of the day it's that, but it's just hard to compare people's like little dick jokes to like the Mona Lisa. I always say, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
there's so many things that go into this craft of just like, all right, we're going to craft a sentence that's going to make a joke and it's going to make, but then I have to craft how I'm going to say it. I have to craft, how I'm going to move when I say it, and there's like
Yeah.
all of that kind of stuff. And then it's just like constantly tinkering. So I think that's more crafty than anything. Uh,
Yeah, I agree with a lot of that. I like to make the point that there's fiber artists, like people who use yarn and textiles to make sculpture or whatever they call their art to be. But then there's knitting. And knitting is the craft versus the fiber artist, because at the end of the day, you have a product, you have a sweater, you have a scarf, it's functional. And so with stand up, at the end of the day, you have a product, and that's laughter. If
mm.
you say a joke and laughter is not produced, you did spoken word.
Okay, that's interesting.
And And for me, like the next level of that is that comedy, like you said, is being rewritten. And a lot of it is based on what we want to say. But the other half of it is audience input. So if you have a joke that you love, but 9 times out of 10, it bombs, you might not do that on a weekend show. You might do it another time. You might keep it in the act. You might say it when like you have to say it. Like whatever you're like you make that decision as the creator. But um it your act is changing even during the act. So like you might have a plan, but then you start and like halfway through you do a dark joke and the audience really doesn't like it. You're not closing on your school shooting bit. You're gonna pivot, you're gonna do something else. And so when the medium is being swayed or is being formed by the audience input and people who are arguably not practitioners in the field. They're not they don't know anything. And they are actually setting the tone for the medium.
Mhm.
That
I like that viewpoint, actually. It's a very solid point to make.
Mhm,
Yeah,
mhm.
because I do have this debate kind of often with comics,
Yeah.
because they really want to hold on to it. They're like, "Oh, it's art," and it's like, I don't think so. I do storytelling also, and that to me at least feels more like art than anything. Because I'll share that story, and there's a lot of different feelings that go in it, and it is still spoken word, but it's like it's just different than crafting a joke, I think.
Mhm.
So it's cool. Like when you decided to start comedy, like were there influences in your mind of like maybe who you wanted to be like, or who you just really enjoyed watching? Was there like what was your view on comedy when you started? And then that class, I mean, it's you don't often meet a lot of people that have done class. I mean, you went to a class, so probably, but like for the most part, most people just kind of go out there and try it. So it's like you have a different influence from the start, as far as how that goes. It's very
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, thank you. I technically did an open mic when I was in Ohio.
Okay.
And so that was probably in 2018. So 2017, 2018. And I knew that I was funny. I knew that I really enjoyed stand-up comedy, and I it was almost medicinal in my life. So especially when I would move back, like I was in Greece for 4 years and I was in school as well. So I would have to come back to the US to take classes at times. And just in that transition of like going from picturesque Santorini, Greece to Youngstown, Ohio, usually coming back in the winter, it was I found that I would like crave comedy in a very medicinal way, in a way that I was like I would truly prescribe myself. Like Chelsea Handler had her show. It was like a talk show on Netflix. And then she did that docu-series of like Chelsea Does that like 4 part. And so that was very much like when that show was on, like it came out twice a week, I think. It was like I'm watching the TV, no one else, because I don't know, my family's like kind of Amish. We only have one TV. So and that's not really typical. Everyone has their own screens now, but for me that's how it was. And like people like my brothers were like, yeah, like get out of here. Like she really needs this. And so I'm kind of getting away from the question, but the I wanted to, I love consuming comedy, and I read almost every, like if a comedian has written a book, I've most likely read it. And there is always a point in the first chapter, in the first like the beginning of their book, where they say that all of their friends or their teachers or their family was like, you're so funny, you need to go to an open mic, you need to do stand-up comedy. And absolutely no one in my life had ever said that to me. So I am thinking like, okay, here is this very formal first step that is happening in most professional comedians' lives where everyone is like, you need to try this, you need to do this, and it hasn't happened to me. And so even though I knew that I was funny and I wanted to do stand up, I was like, oh, okay, like that hasn't happened, and so I can't or I shouldn't do this. That being said, I still tried. I still tried it when I was in Ohio. There just wasn't that much comedy happening. So I remember so from Youngstown, I had to drive to Cleveland. That's like an hour 20 in the car. And I didn't have a car at the time. So I had to like arrange to use my mom's car. And I was also married. I was in a relationship that was quite controlling. And so I knew that I had an amazing time at the open mic, but I was like, this is just too many barriers. And I just know that this isn't going to fly.
Okay.
Like this is not going to fly. And so after I did that open mic, I really started to plan my exit strategy from that relationship and from my life that I was living. And that looked like me paying off my student loan debt and being accepted to my first two artist residencies. So I spent the summer of 2019 in Europe doing residencies. And then from that, I moved to New York and started painting. But again, still consuming comedy, loving comedy, but just thinking like, I'm already painting and this is so hard. Am I really going to be failing at two art forms at the same time? And the answer is yes. So that's what I
Crazy, crazy way to frame that in your mind.
Yeah, it's like this is already so hard. Am I gonna
Yeah.
make it harder? And now that I'm doing both, they definitely one hand washes the other in ways that I didn't anticipate. So the whole reason that I even took the class was because a few months before the class, I was reading someone's bio at like an interior design event, and it was a room of probably 30 people, half of which I knew. And I was sweating, I was shaking, I was just having a reaction that I felt was not normal to. I wasn't even speaking, I didn't have to memorize anything. I was literally reading it, but I was just like, I have to get over this. This is not a normal reaction to have. And my solution to that was like, I'm going to take a stand-up comedy class because I already love stand up. I'm not going to take a boring professional speaking class.
Mhm.
That just didn't sound fun to me. And so once I went through the class, I thought, um, I thought I was like, well, here it is. Like I formally now I know I'm funny. I can make a crowd laugh. I can write a joke, and I'm learning how to tell jokes. And so but even then, after I took it was a 6 week class, I did the class show, and I didn't really think. I was like, okay, this is a fun skill that I have, and now like I can do an open mic when I want to, and like if I come up with a funny joke, then I'll go to an open mic and I'll say it, and it wasn't until like another relationship, completely different horrible relationship, where I was living with a boyfriend at his apartment, and he kind of just like very abruptly kicked me out, and I didn't have a job. Oh, I like lost my job in the same week, and because when it rains it pours, and I just didn't have anything else to do. I I would just I mean I and also the day of like being kicked out, I guess. I like within 40 minutes of him saying like, yeah, you need to leave. And he was kind of just like, I'm gonna go. And like around 8 p.m., like I'm gonna come back and like you can't be here. And I was like, don't even leave. Like I was like, don't even leave. I'm
Oh.
going for like like I'll be leaving first. And like because in New York City you can do anything really fast. So I just found an Airbnb that was nearby and was like checked in within the hour. And then a few hours after that, I went to an open mic, and I had already written I didn't do like a full 5 minutes on it, but I had already written a few jokes that fit into what I was saying about the breakup and like about what happened. And I still have the recording, and it's very empowering to listen to, because even like on my like a very dark day, a very like that was low key horrible. Um, I still laughed and I made other people laugh. And that was really powerful for me.
That's awesome. I just to share a similar experience. my father like went into like a septic shock in the middle of the night, and like I was like watching him like getting pretty close to like dying in front of me. And
Mhm.
then we got him to the ER like just in time, but I'm like chilling in the waiting room. And
Yeah.
I'm like sitting there and I'm like, I am deregulated. Like I need to feel better. So I'm just like like sitting there in the ER, like waiting room, just trying to find the funny. And like I'm just like writing jokes in my phone just to feel a sense of control. And like
Mhm.
and it really helped. And I still use those jokes in my set today, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. It is
It's
such a, yeah, it's a powerful tool. I don't think it replaces therapy because there's definitely, I feel like needs to happen in tandem. Like there's no, like I think a lot of people look at artists, like any type of medium or artist or craft person, as we've been pointing out, but any creative to use their output as processing, and that is valid. I- Only after like there's been real work, and I think that you hear it a lot at open mics, and you can hear it at shows too, just like mostly guys will say just like yeah, who just like really need to speak to a professional.
yeah.
Like, yeah,
The
this isn't funny yet. This will be after you've healed a little bit, but mhm.
there's like a different energy behind it, I feel like, when somebody says something from a place of like hurt versus a place of like, I'm trying to accept what has happened and like I want to, move forward, but there is definitely a when somebody says something and they're still in the moment and they're still like feeling it, there is definitely a different energy around it. And you're like, you still kind of mean what you're saying, you're not
Yeah,
joking,
yeah.
it's very different.
Yeah, the
Um,
audience picks up on it.
so I find it very interesting. So like you just to backtrack a little bit, you had that first set in Ohio and there was a lot of stuff going on in your life and you but you left that, and I imagine like before the set you were feeling like, hey, I really do have to make some changes.
Yeah.
But like was that first set like kind of like that feeling of like life should be so much better, or like was it just kind of like the final nail in the coffin of like, hey, I need like that hour drive back is like I need to make sure I feel this way more than I feel when I get home.
Right. It definitely brought like a level of truth to my life that I could no longer ignore. Like I remember I was working at a Michael's frame shop because there just aren't a lot of like art things happening. So it's like I'm a painter, I need craft supplies, at least I can get a discount like if I work at this store. And so I worked in their framing department. But my manager was horrible and I quit the next day. And like I didn't quit because I was like, oh, I think I'm gonna be a stand-up comic. I was just like, I can no longer like work here. Like I'm not going to go to the next thing without letting this go first. And so that was the first level of truth that just like needed to happen. Like people, because it's a small town, and people would walk into there and be like, "Why do you work here?" And I'm like, "What?" Like that's such like a crazy thing to say. Like I don't know, I need money, but yeah, so that was, I just remember it was definitely a pivot. And yeah, I was just at a point where like everyone was looking at me and thinking like that my relationship was really ideal and that whatever I was doing was really cool, and it wasn't. It maybe from the outside looked like a relationship that people would want to emulate, but inside it really wasn't. And I knew that, but I just had so many outside influences telling me like, "Oh, you'll change your mind. No, this is really good. You're depressed. You don't feel well." And so it was very like reminiscent of like women being diagnosed with hysteria and just kind of like being institutionalized for having feelings. It was very reminiscent of that. And so what I did was, instead of like acting out or like expressing myself further, I was like, this isn't the situation. People are not listening to me. And so what I did was I got really quiet. And yeah, like I said, I just started to make my moves quietly. And that's what happened.
That's really awesome. I mean, I live like 2 hours from New York right
Yeah.
now. And I commute in at least once a week. I do a full day of mics and I still do mics up here because everything's like an hour away.
Yeah.
Uh,
So it's the same situation like in like when I was in Ohio.
Yeah, I mean, but like I don't know what the Cleveland setup is like, but like I've heard other comics from the Hudson Valley and the Capital Region say this, and I believe it. Like, I'm only 2 hours away from the center of the universe, and like it's like 2 hours is like nothing compared to somebody who is like from Ohio that, like that isn't an option for you on like a weekly basis to just
Mhm.
travel in and travel out. So like I better take advantage of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel the same way. Like when I first went to Tokyo, I thought this is such a cool city and that I could definitely live there. But if I want to do stand up, I already live in New York. So,
Mhm.
why would I come to a place where and try to build a scene when it already exists on such a robust level? And you can just tap into that.
Yeah, it's like you can definitely see the. I will say that like sometimes I get mixed feelings on New York sometimes, like, right? Because I mean, you see a lot of people that get a lot of reps in that are really influenced and they're around people and they're really getting the most out of it. And I do think comedy is something that you get out what you put in.
Mhm.
But there are some people that really do kind of treat it like a full-time hobbyist where they're just like they're at the mic more to socialize than it is to like work on their craft. And I
Yeah.
think that's like very interesting because I mean, well, even if they're just there working on their craft, and it's in a very like laid back atmosphere, they'll still get a lot more work done than somebody, where I am, if they're not paying attention. But still, I mean, it's just like it's so competitive down there. You're doing shows for free all the time. Like it's very much there are people there that will outwork you, no problem. And it's just like it's a very interesting thing because it's like you can be in the hub of comedy, like the best place to grow, but also if you're not being proactive about it, you can really just kind of waste a lot of time. And yeah, I mean, also I also like think like when do you spend time writing? Because like that's a big thing too, is writing new stuff.
When do I personally do it?
Well, no, I mean just New York City comics in general, but like, yeah, I mean, I imagine like you're probably getting a lot of material from this trip. I imagine, like go back
Yeah.
to the States.
Yeah, I mean, just in the way that you do from life encounters. I guess it is a little bit easier because I'm having a lot of novel experiences. So I mean, just even like crossing the street can be somewhat of a challenge if you're me. But uh yeah, I think it comes from everywhere. And in terms of like the hobbyists, I don't mind them.
Yeah.
I think that people can tell when you're serious and people can tell when you're there to socialize, and the cream rises to the top regardless. And so I don't think we're losing out to stage time to people who are doing it for fun. And if we are, like, I don't know. I think that this is something that a lot of people take sometimes too seriously, and especially like a lot of people would look down on me for starting with a comedy class. But I think that first, Natasha Leggero, Jeff Ross, they both started with classes. A lot of comics who work professionally started by taking a class, but there is value in joy. And so if someone has just come from their day job where they make a bunch of money and they don't need spot pay and they are having fun, like that only benefits everyone. I think that uh if you are losing out to stage time to someone who's doing it as a hobby and all you're doing is being grumpy about it, then it might be like an attitude shift that needs to happen, or maybe this isn't for you.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that. Like that's the thing about New York is like you will get weeded out. That you can, but that's I don't know because it is so hard, but if you find joy in doing it, I think that that's just as valuable for everyone to see. And I've been in art shows where I'm curated next to someone who has painted a rose bush, and everyone wants to buy this image of a rose bush, and it's not for sale because this person is a retired whatever, and she's doing this for fun, and she loves the painting more than she wants to sell it. As a starving artist, that is very frustrating.
Yeah, I can
So
imagine.
I get that, but at the same time, like you have to let it go, and like I said, the we need joy all around, and that's why we try to make people laugh. And if you're not in comedy to make people laugh, then I don't know why you're in it. Um, and and that we just need more joy. So let the hobbyists come, let them laugh. And also because the people who are trying it and know how hard it is are going to be our biggest fans.
Mhm.
They're the ones who are going to watch us come up. And if they're not, at the shows next to us, they're coming in to be our audience members, and they're going to remember us from the mics and us from the bad bar shows. And I think that having that sense of community with people who maybe won't be your direct competitors, if you will, later on is so valuable.
That's a cool viewpoint. I like that. Yeah. I've had like a mixed feeling because I mean I guess it's a little different upstate, because it is like such a commitment, especially with time.
Sure.
Um, but like yeah, that is a cool viewpoint. I do like that a lot. Um,
Yeah, I guess I can see your frustration if it's like people aren't working. That is frustrating to me where it's like, okay, time and time again, you didn't write anything. Time and time again, you didn't change the punchline, even though you know it doesn't work. That can be frustrating because it feels like you're because as an like someone who's watching an open mic as a comic, like I'm trying to learn from everyone on stage as well. So if
mhm.
someone goes up and bombs, like that's valuable for me because now I don't have to go up and do that. I just saw what doesn't work.
Yeah. If I'm being honest, it probably stems from like a little bit of jealousy, because I'm like, you're where I
There
want to
it
be,
is. There it
and
is,
yeah, oh, definitely,
David.
definitely, I never like it's more of like you have like the opportunity to do so much down here and you're not seizing it. But again, people have different goals than I do, So I mean, it's hard to accept that.
Yeah, yeah. And like I said, my initial goal with taking the class was not to be a stand-up comic. My initial goal was to be better at public speaking. And so people who do need to do that in their day jobs, but they struggle with it, if they come to a mic, have a good time, buy a beer, support the bar, like I feel like that's all just part of it and it's fine.
Yeah.
Because for me, like I was having trouble speaking publicly. And now, since taking the comedy class, since doing stand-up comedy more professionally, I have done a handful more of artist talks that I otherwise wouldn't have booked. And so that's money in my pocket, that's experience that I have, and that's another line of income that I'm able to add to my life. And so there's so many valuable things that can come from this skill set.
Do you so like that one time you were reading out loud, and those feelings there, do you still get anything like that before going up on stage to either present or to do stand up? Like, or are you like
Yeah.
numb to it now?
Yes. No, I mean, especially now because I feel like so rusty. Like before I went up for even for the open mic, the host was on stage and I forgot that I told him I wanted to go first. And so I saw him like putting the mic back. I'm like, oh my God, he's getting ready to call my name and my heart started beating really fast. So I still do get jitters. I would say for stand up, now that like I've transitioned into also doing artist talks, those are very off the cuff, very natural because I've been painting for so long. It's like I know my shit. No
Mhm.
one can talk about my paintings better than I can. And so even in Japan, um, I had a surprise artist talk. My friends, they have an interior design business, and they were like, they said, "Oh, we're gonna have a welcome party for you at our shop. We'd love, it's gonna be food and fun, and we're gonna invite our network." And then the day before, they're like, "You're gonna talk about your art, right? You're gonna do an artist. You're gonna present your work." And I was blindsided. I was like, nothing's free. And
Uh,
but then it was like, yeah, of course. Where had that happened 2 or 3 years ago, I probably would not have felt comfortable communicating a no if it needed to be no, but also I would have just been freaking out the entire time beforehand, like, oh my gosh, how do I put a presentation together? But instead it was just like, oh, grab some videos from my Instagram. The gallery had just sent me fresh photos from the show in Tokyo, so it was like, yeah, this is happening, and it's no skin off my back to do something like that. But I would say for stand up, I'm still pretty nervous. It's more naked. It's more naked. Yeah. To
yeah.
it's embarrassing to say something and not get a laugh. It's like, you thought that was funny? Oh my God.
That's rough. I think I'm usually fine, and then like sometimes like in the middle of a set, a joke that normally does really well like doesn't, and I'm just like, all right, well, I'm fucked, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's always, and I also like when it's like labeled a competition on
Uh,
a, then I'm like, all right, now like I don't know, there's like a different energy around it, I guess, and I get a
yeah.
little nervous. You
Hmm.
know? Yeah.
I think it means you care, and so that's important. I just think I when it comes to speaking about my paintings, it's like I'm the authority on my own work, and so there's just this definitive authority that I have. I don't have another word for it. But then with stand up, it's I'm so new, and but I hope that I do stay curious about it. Like um when I first started doing open mics after the class, for months, I didn't realize that people were doing open mics to prepare for shows. I was just
Mhm.
like, we are doing stand-up comedy and this is it. And I love it so much. And then I realized, oh, this is practice. Like this is practice
Yeah.
for something else. And it like hadn't really occurred to me. But I just remember, again, I was like in such a dark space. Like I was living in an Airbnb and like didn't have a job and didn't know what I was doing with my life. But I just remember going to those open mics and thinking like, I'm so lucky. I just got like a $5 comedy show and I'm about to go to another one, and I just laughed with all these people and I also made them laugh some of the time. And I just remember feeling so lucky to have that, and I hope that that structure stays the same, because even here it's similar, where it would still be cool to be bopping around London, and I am doing some tourist things like checking out museums, and like tomorrow I'm gonna go swim in a pond. We're having a heat wave here, so I'm like, I must prepare to do something because air conditioning has not popped off here. So so I am like touring around, but to have this undercurrent and like kind of inherent community of like we're all doing this thing that's kind of really hard and we're doing it together, just I don't know, it's sweet.
It's pretty cool, right?
Mhm. It's the
Yeah.
best.
Yeah, I dig it. The
Mhm.
so I mean we don't we can cut this part out if you don't want it to be in here. But I'm just curious, like just culturally differences, I guess. Being a woman in
USA, USA. Okay,
yeah,
no.
being a woman in stand-up comedy, because I mean, you see a lot of like rough stuff happen in New York, you know. Is it like different in Japan? Is it different in London? Like, is there much more respect, I would assume, or is it still pretty shitty or like
Um, I mean, I guess in society in Japan, what I like most is people don't touch you. Um, like even like I was taking photos with my gallerist and we're posing next to each other, and like one of them had like his hands on his hips, and I'm like, that's so cute and I love that. Um, People don't touch you in Japan, and I applaud them for that. They do, but there's still crimes against women. In Japan, they have women only train cars, and that way you know exactly where to find us. So The but I mean, even I was just here on the train and someone in London the other day, and someone started talking to me, and then he started touching me, and some guy jumped in immediately, and we have see something, say something. They have see it, say it, sorted. A little clunky, but it worked, and the guy was like, "No, she don't want to talk to you," and I was like, "Oh my God, I don't." Thank you. But that's not necessarily comedy related. That's just, being a woman in the world. I think that translates to comedy. I want to say, I don't know, there's just so much fewer women doing stand up than men. I know the landscape has changed drastically, but there's still such a far way to go. Like, I was one of two women at the open mic yesterday out of 15 comics. The last show that I did, I was the only woman on the lineup. When at the open mic in Japan, when the news was interviewing everyone, they got to me and they said, "Are you on the show?" They did. Their first question was not about stand-up comedy. They said, "Are you on the show?" And I said, "They let women do it too." Uh, for now, anyway. And so. Yeah, I don't know exactly the question, or I don't remember the question, but it's pretty much the same everywhere.
Okay. I mean that, that kind of answers it. I was
Yeah.
just curious because, I have female comedian friends that, have not had the best experience with stand up, and it can be a rather hostile environment as a woman in this community as well, also in the world, but
Mhm.
as well. So I was just curious if it was like maybe a little better over there.
I don't know. I think I kind of just am scratching the surface here, so it's hard to speak entirely on the scene, but my experience is that it's the same. There's fewer women, and therefore, like, we're less safe because we're safer when there's more women around. That's just statistics. The I think the point that I guess want to say again, like, perhaps that's maybe why I felt like I needed to take a class is, you can go to a comedy show and enjoy it and be like, this is awesome. But when you go to a comedy show and see someone who looks like you think, this is awesome, I want to do it. And so I
Okay.
think that's what breeds more specifically white hetero male stand-ups, is that still 70 to 90% of the lineup is going to be white men. And that's just, yeah, that's not anything against anyone, but that, so when white men are in the audience, they're like, this is awesome, I can do that. I can do that because he's doing it. And that's why representation across the board is so important across any field, is because it inspires others to do the same if they want to. And also, with the like, I've also see and hear other guys like punching up each other's jokes, giving each other's tips. No one does that for me at Mike's. No one does that. So having the structure of a class, I feel like, was important for me at the time.
Yeah, I mean that's awesome. I mean that's a great reason to take a class, is to feel like the barrier for entry is more comfortable, you know?
Mhm. Yeah, and like you said, it is so hard. And like a lot of comics, the next phase of this could look like being on the road. If you're on the road, a lot of comics sleep in their cars. Do you know how dangerous that is for a woman to do?
Yeah.
And so just like personal autonomy and safety is just like not a decision that male comedians are making, or it's not something that you're necessarily thinking about all the time, where it's ingrained in almost every decision based on, you know, when can I go in the lineup? Because when am I going to leave the show? Can I take the train home? Do I have to get an Uber?
Yeah.
The weather. Can I wear? I have to wear long pants. I have to be dressed in a certain way as to not elicit any sexual responses from people in the audience, club owners, or people who work there. It's just the the level of decision making that we have to make before we even think about getting on stage just does not exist in your world.
For sure. I mean, even just I mean, you kind of brought up the Uber ride home
Mhm.
versus the train, you know,
Yeah.
and oftentimes like a show doesn't pay in New York, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
or you know, maybe if it does, it's like 10 or 15 bucks.
Yeah. It's not an Uber ride.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
It's not
know, I know. Yeah,
not
yeah. So
covering
it's
the
just like, all
Uber.
right, I'm making $10 on this show and it cost me $3.90 to take the train. The female comedian in the lineup is like spending 25 bucks to 45 bucks on an Uber to
Yeah.
go from Brooklyn to Queens, you know, like
Right.
that's
And so then it
yeah.
does become a financial decision of like, oh, because I mean, and I did that here. I did that multiple times here when I reached out to male comedians and I said, what venues do you like? What shows can I reach out to? Do you have any contacts? When I reach out to women, I ask them the same thing. And then I say, are there any places I need to avoid?
Yes. Yeah.
And so that's the difference.
Yeah. That's huge.
Yeah, because it does become financial if you're getting spot pay of like, oh, I can no longer work there. That's a place that would pay me, and now I can no longer go there because it's not safe.
Mhm. Yeah, that's unfortunate. It's a completely different experience. But I mean, that's why I
Yeah.
feel like y'all deserve a lot more respect when you do this craft, you know,
Yeah.
because it is like it's a bigger commitment, I feel like, you know, especially from a physical standpoint, but also just like, you know, emotional and mental too, because like, you know, people be saying shit and it's not comfortable, you know, and
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, even just being spoken around in a way that like you are not being seen by men, you learn a lot.
Yeah.
You learn a lot and but it's just like wow, I'm not even here. Yeah, it's interesting.
Um, when you do stand up, and I know you gotta depart soon, but
Yeah.
like when you do stand up in New York, like you know, do you stick to a borough? Is there like a scene that you kind of identify more with?
No, I'm all over the place. I live in Queens, so in theory, I try to do Grove 34 and QED because I'm walking distance between both those locations, but I like somehow can never like it doesn't work. And I'm always going to Brooklyn. I'm always in Manhattan, the Bronx. Yeah, I love Harlem too. I used to work at a frame shop in Harlem, and when I tapped into those mics there, I was like, "Oh, where have I been? This is awesome." So, no, I don't shy away from public transit when I when I am choosing shows. But yeah, I'd love to do more in Queens because I think it just makes sense schedule wise. So we'll see when I'm back in September what happens. But yeah,
Queens seems so out of the way, you know, like frequenting New York as much as I have, I'm like so there are times when I want to hit QED and it like
Mhm.
really is like a decision, you know, because I'm
Yeah,
like that mic starts at 6:30. I'm at this mic, it starts at 5, you know, but it takes 40 minutes to get there from the Lower East Side by train.
Mhm.
Like that's a hike, you know, like and
Yeah,
I don't know why, because I'll drive like an hour and a half, you know, to do a mic up here, but like for some reason 40 minutes on a train to go out there, you know, it just feels like so out of the way. But I think it's because like I can't make it there and back conveniently, you know, to squeeze in another mic, you know what I mean? But
yeah.
but I do like the atmosphere at QED. It's
Yeah, and
very
honestly, yeah, I'll send you some my other mics because there's a lot of mics that have recently popped up at different. Heart of Gold is another venue that's been doing comedy. So you could time it to do like all three. And there's more. So yeah, it's like you need me to tell you that. It's not necessarily it's
yeah.
all word of mouth. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, that's how it works. But it's a growing scene in and of itself. But I feel like what you're saying, like even like a crowd in London versus Japan versus New York, it's so different any part in New York. Like the jokes are going to work differently. So it's a really to have access to all the different boroughs and all the little micro scenes that are happening is so valuable for a New York comedian because you can test all of the different material with different demographics.
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, I've told people this before, but like, you know, Staten Island and Brooklyn are a half-hour drive apart,
Yeah.
politically opposite ends of the spectrum. It is like
Yeah.
crazy, you know, and you know, I was fortunate enough to do a show in each in the same like 4 hour span,
Hmm.
and I was just like blown away because I, you know, like when I pick a set, like I'm just gonna go with that set for the day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but like I was just blown away just by the reaction to the same jokes in different places. And I do better in Brooklyn than I do in Staten
That's
Island.
interesting.
Yeah, but especially how I look, right? But but like in Staten Island, they should be like, hey, he's one of us,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know? But yeah, I mean, and I don't really do political humor at all. It's just like my viewpoint on things, I guess, is more silly than it is like more aggressive, I guess.
Yeah, that's
Staten Island humor seems to
interesting.
be pretty aggressive.
Yeah. And I always bomb when I'm in Bushwick, which is crazy to me because I'm a white transplant acting 10 years younger than I am. So again, I'm like, I'm your queen. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
But I just, for some reason, cannot do well there. But it's something to work on.
Yeah, maybe it's like one of those things of like because I look like somebody that could survive in Staten Island pretty well and they like see a lot of straight white guys in Staten Island so much, they're
Mhm.
like, "All right, we want something different or
You're
like,
coding.
be
Yeah.
be unique." And I'm just like, "No." But like when I do it in Brooklyn, they're like, "Oh, like he's not like the guy we pictured him being when he walked on stage.
Yeah.
Like maybe it's like
Yeah.
an elation.
That surprise is there for them because maybe they're stereotyping you harder in Brooklyn.
Yeah, which is fun to play with, if I'm being honest.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
absolutely.
not necessarily a disadvantage.
Mhm.
Yeah. All right. Well, I mean, I've held you up in the pod. Is there anything you'd like to like you're in a pod on the pod?
Yes, literally.
Yeah, that's
I'm like running out of air. Uh, no, I guess follow me on Instagram. I have a comedy account that's at Absinthe Leaf. It's not abs in the leaf, as some people have been bringing up to me. I guess an underscore there would have been ideal, but we're rolling with it. And then if you are interested in my paintings, it's at Aislinn Janek, my first and last name. Yeah, my visual arts shows just closed on the 4th, so you missed those. But yeah, check me out on both spaces. My Substack, I try to write once a month. You can sign up for that. It's free, or you can like be a paid member if you're my mom. And I think that's it. I think that's all I have. Yeah.
well. I appreciate you coming on. Renting the pod to go on the pod, and yeah, it's been. I think this was a very cool conversation.
Likewise. Yeah, yeah. This is awesome. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on.
That's the point of no return. It won't get stopped, but still you gotta push it. Oh yeah. Oh hey. Interruptible to the limit. How are we doing? This is interruptible. We're recording this at home. We're not at work doing this. So anyways, I don't know how the audio is going to come out. And we're going to talk about shows. We got shows. Hope you're enjoying this episode. It's over now, and we're about to get out of here. But hey, the 724 going to be at the Denizen Theater in New Paltz. 725 Eyes Up Here Comedy Festival. Very excited to go to New Jersey and to do some comedy. 726 we got a 2 p.m. show in Liberty, New York at Bridge and Tunnel Brewing. That's produced by Keith Prince. I'm very excited to do that one. Very excited for the whole weekend, actually. It's going to be really cool. The following weekend, 8-1, Chuck Chill Out Comedy. That's going to be in Saugerties at Mirabella's. 8-1 again. I'm going to leave that show. I'm going to come to this. I'm going to go to Julian's in Millbrook. Catch me doing all the things. That's going to be a good time. And then on 8-6, we're going to be at All the Way Down at Downtime Bar in New York City, putting together a show down there with Mr. Joseph Gerbosis and headliner Carmen Legala. And we've got a great lineup there I'm very excited for. And on 8-7, we got the Krog Show. That is potentially the last Krog Show before we do the rebrand. And I don't think so, but it could be. And you know what? If you're listening to this, you should go. Okay? 8-7-26. Go to the Krog Show. Great lineup, too. Oh my God. What a lineup, guys. What a lineup. I forget that I'm on camera, that I'm not just reading off the screen, doing no charisma for the camera. And then we're going to close that out. 8-8. It's going to be at Don't Tell Comedy. I believe that's in Pearl River, New York. I could be wrong, could be suffering. For all I know, I forget which one that one's at. I should do my research. But guys, a lot of shows coming up. We have a very exciting closeout to the summer coming up. And thank you for listening to the show. Please subscribe to the newsletter. You can find that in my Instagram bio in the links. And, you can hear about upcoming shows directly, just in case you don't make it all the way to the interruptible at the end. It's not really interrupting anything anymore. It's the closable, the datesable. I don't know. Carl, get us out of here.